Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Dundas, Director of Marketing and Communications here at OrgVitality. 2020 isn't exactly turning out to be the year many people anticipated. Like many companies, we at OrgVitality take stock of who we are and what we can contribute to the national dialogue during times of crisis. In that spirit, we are launching this podcast, People at Work, in which we view the pressing issues of the day through the lens that we are experts in, namely that of organizational effectiveness. For this inaugural episode, I'll be speaking with OrgVitality founder and CEO, Jeffrey Saltzman. Jeffrey, welcome.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Jeffrey Saltzman, co-founder and CEO of OrgVitality, and I'm excited about the launch of this podcast. At OrgVitality, we continually strive to tackle issues that affect organizations and their people, and I hope this podcast is a platform for those who want to drive positive change.
Jeff, organizations and their employees are now grappling with two simultaneous crises, the pandemic and the ongoing protests sweeping the country. How do organizations help their employees deal with these separate yet intertwined events?
Well, thanks, Amanda. That's a complicated question. It's complicated in that the pandemic and the protests are separate and yet very much overlapping kind of events. If you think of the pandemic first, the pandemic is unique in that it affects the whole world, but affects the whole organization all at once. In other words, the organization was shut down in many cases, or all of a sudden their customers disappeared. The pandemic happened to organizations in a global way, and yet the way that organizations experienced that pandemic exhibited itself through their people. In other words, people lost their jobs, people took pay cuts, people didn't have work to do, right? So the pandemic affected the organization, and by the organization being affected, it affected its people. If you look at the protests, it's almost the flip of that. In other words, the murder that happened in Minneapolis then created a lot of anger, or sort of illustrated a lot of anger that was out there in the population. And so it first affected not the organization, but the people. And then the people, in the protests and in the sort of rising up of enough already, this has been going on for, way too long, that groundswell of sort of the people emoting their feelings began to affect the organization. And the organizations then were responding to what the people in what the organization needed. And yet these two sort of separate kind of events are very much intertwined. And the key to getting through both of them in a successful way for an organization is to think about what employees get out of and what they need from their interactions with the organization. First and foremost, of course, people want to be treated with respect and dignity when they interact with an organization. If you look at why do people join organizations, there's a short list of reasons why they do that. One of which, of course, is they want to earn a living. So having a sense of equity, in other words, for the effort that I put out for the organization, I get a fair exchange. People want to also be able to achieve something. They want to go into an organization and feel like they make a difference. And then thirdly, very importantly, they also want to feel like the way they're treated by the organization is respectful and with dignity. And so whether you're dealing with the pandemic or whether you're dealing with the protests, keeping in mind, are you giving people a fair shake in terms of their equity? Are you allowing them to achieve? Humans as a creature want to achieve things. They want to accomplish things. And very importantly, are you treating people with respect and dignity?
I think what you're saying about respect and dignity is clearly very important, and definitely would go a long way to make people happier in their organizations. But it's also a tall order. How does an organization go about achieving this?
Well, I'm reminded, by the way, of a study that was done years and years ago for a retail organization. that was having well over 100%, close to 200% turnover per year. And the organization wanted to improve, and what they were struck with, well, though, was how their numbers didn't move. And they posed a question, which was, if we have 200% turnover per year, how come we can't change? And the reason is because you have the structures in place, the rules, the regulations, the policies, the systems that caused new people to come in and adopt the same exact attitudes as the people who have been in the organization for a while. So the key to achieving, do people feel that they're treated with respect and dignity? Do they feel that they're getting fair equity for the amount of work they put in? And are they achieving something in their job? The key to knowing that is to measure it through systematic kind of going to the population and asking them about important critical topics. And you're not going to get improvement on those areas simply by measuring it. You get improvement in those areas by making sure that your organizational structure, your policies and practices, procedures support the kind of results that you're looking to achieve.
You've had a lot of experience measuring employee attitudes of leadership during times of crisis. So what does your research show?
Well, one of the things that we see in times of crisis is that employees tend to give leadership the benefit of the doubt. In fact, if you look normatively at scores on leadership, after various crises, whether it be 9/11, whether it be the Great Recession we had in the 2007, 2008 time period, whether it's this pandemic that we've had, employees tend to score leaders more positively than in times when we're not facing crises. And so employees want good, solid, strong leadership. They want to know that someone is leading the organization competently through troubled times. And how do they judge that leader? They judge that leader on whether that person is providing transparency about what the organization is doing, how are they dealing with the crisis. They want that leader to be open. They want that leader to be honest. Now, maintaining that sort of benefit of the doubt that employees are willing to give leaders, maintaining it for the long term will require maintaining that transparency, that openness, and that honesty that employees are looking for in their leadership.
Given all that, how would you advise leadership to create positive change right now?
Well, there's a lot of different change models out there, but I would suggest a very simple one. I would suggest a change model that has three factors to it. The first factor is, and you can think of these things as three overlapping circles. The first factor is message. So if you want to create change, you have to communicate why you're creating that change. What's in it for the organization? What's in it for the individuals within the organization? So having a clear message and communicating that message to the individuals within the organization. The second key is what I would call performance, which is making sure that if the organization is moving from A to B, that the people in the organization who performed at A also have the skill sets to perform at B. That might require training them or communicating to them what the standards might be. But what you want to do is, or it could include giving them new equipment or software, so that it's not simply training, but it can also be capabilities that the organization would have internally. So first thing is message. Why are you changing? The second thing is performance, enabling them to perform at the new organizational type. And the third thing is future, helping the employees and the staff envision how they fit into the new organization as it changes from A to B.
Thanks, Jeff. We actually have some specific information on how organizations can use these three factors of message, performance, and future to help employees through times of crisis or big changes. We will make that report available on the resource section of our webpage for anyone interested in learning more. You can find it at www.orgvitality.com/resources. I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you for supporting this podcast. We'll feature different voices as we move forward. So if you'd like to always be alerted to new podcasts, be sure to like our company page on LinkedIn or follow us on Twitter.